listening to Fun Tower Radio's Labor Day 9.0 celebration. Here's Jack Kratoville.
Fun Tower Radio, America. From the fun side of the night.
Fun Tower Radio.
Hey there, it's Jack Kratoville, and welcome to my hour of the Fun Tower. Now, long-time listener to Ron Sedaille's Fun Tower, very excited, honored, as a matter of fact, when I asked Ron exactly what he wanted. He said, hey, just have fun. So let's do it. Fun on the Fun Tower. Here are the Beach Boys.
Well, she got her days covered.
Those are the Beach Boys. Fun, fun, fun.
Fun Tower Radio, where your friends are.
This Jack Kratoville on the Fun Tower. Thank you, Ron Sedaille, for inviting me. Now, a long time ago, I actually started in Hartford radio at a station called The Natural 92, WWYZ back then. And one of the first songs I ever remember playing in Hartford now was this one by Spanky and Our Gang, appropriately.
But I like to get to know you.
That is still one of my favorite songs of all time. Spanky and Our Gang, Like to Get to Know You. And let's get to know each other. Let's get to know the Fun Tower, too. Jack Kratoville, Ron Sedaille letting me dip into his pool of jingles.
Fun Tower Radio.
Yeah, and you know, it's like potato chips. You can't just play one.
Fun Tower Radio, the greatest hits. Fun Tower Classic.
And hey, that brings us right into a great Motown classic, one of my favorites from Smokey Robinson, If You Can Want, on the Fun Tower. Smokey Robinson, If You Can Want, Fun Tower, Jack Kratoville, Labor Day weekend.
You're with the turned on sound. Radio big hits. Fun Tower Radio.
Now, as most of you probably know, the Fun Tower started on a radio station that I grew up with, WDRC-FM. And one of the first songs that I remember the Big D playing was this song before it was even a hit. I think they played it as an album cut. Now, I remember the album cut. I also remember the chopped up 45 version. Kind of liked both. So I actually took the blade, so to speak, and made my own longer version of the hit single. See what you think. Chicago and Beginnings. All right, so it's the 45 ending attached to the longer version of the song. Still, one of my favorite Chicago songs, Beginnings.
You're on your mark. Get set. Go on, American. The greatest hits. Fun Tower Radio.
Jack Kratoville on the Fun Tower. Thanks, Ron Sedaille, for inviting me. So good to be here. We're all about memories and playing songs that bring back some memories. This one, well, we're going to go back 50 years ago, this past summer, the first summer I learned how to drive. Now, I remember my grandfather taking me out in a 1967 Chevrolet Impala. Now, we drove around for a little while, and I remember the first time he said, well, if you're ready, we can turn the radio on. Are you kidding me? The radio? Let's do it. First station was WABC in New York, just AM at that time. And this was the song that was on. One of my favorites.
When I think back, oh no.
There goes Ryman Simon, Paul Simon and Kodachrome, back 1973.
Fun Tower Radio. Gold.
This Jack Kratoville on the Fun Tower, Labor Day weekend. Thank you, Ron Sedaille, for having me on. I can't believe summer is over already. My favorite season of the year. Going back as a little kid with an AM radio in my hand, we had a local station called Wharf Radio, WHRF 1570 AM. Captains of the Sound, the starboard side of your dial. Yep, those were the jingles. And this was a Wharf Wax to watch. I think that meant it was a up-and-coming hit.
Hey there, Georgie. Hey there, Georgie. Rockin', dancing lighter than air. A smile on your lips, the sun in your hair. A wonderful time to share with your friends at Fun Tower Radio. Solid gold.
Jack Kratoville on the Fun Tower. Thanks for having us on this Labor Day weekend. Hope you're enjoying the music. Hope you're enjoying the stories. Speaking of which, I mentioned that the station I grew up with, seriously, was WDRC FM, listening across Long Island Sound here at my home in Long Island, just wondering, someday I was going to be on the air in Hartford, the Big D. Well, I never made it. I am on the website because I attended their 100th anniversary, but I never made it on the air, although my son did. Seriously. He wanted to hear the song by American Breed, Bend Me, Shape Me, and I said, you know what, why don't you call the Fun Tower, Ron Sedaille, and see if he'll play it for you. He called, and Ron put him on the air. I didn't save the phone call, unfortunately, but my son was on DRC FM. I was not. This was the song. Now, here's a bit of trivia I bet you don't know. I just saw this, too, recently, that a few members of the band American Breed later became Rufus, featuring Shaka Khan. Jack Kratoville on the Fun Tower.
You're where it is, the giant sound of Fun Tower Radio, the greatest hits.
You know, I want to thank a lot of friends of mine who are in the business or who are interested in the business. We exchange different jingles, we exchange different songs, we talk about things and memories and stuff we grew up with. Well, one of my favorite stories was about a song from the Strawberry Alarm Clock. Now, apparently, when they recorded their hit single, they used a vocalist who was not in the band. And after the song was recorded, there was a little bit of a mix-up, and the master tape walked out the door. In other words, the mono version has been the one we've been listening to for many, many years. Well, until recently, when somebody decided to start remixing things. Not sure how, but I got myself a stereo copy of one of my favorite songs from the psychedelic years. Here's Incense and Peppermints. Strawberry Alarm Clock, Incense and Peppermints in stereo.
You're on your mark, get set, go on American, the greatest hits, Fun Tower Radio.
Jack Kratoville on the Fun Tower. Thank you, Ron Sedaille, for inviting me Labor Day weekend. I know we're playing the hits here. It's been a long time, though, since I was able to cherry pick my favorite songs, which means that I had to dig through and think about it. And over the years, this one probably has remained my all-time favorite of all time. The very first from the Spinners. Not even going to do the intro. We'll jingle up to it. It's a Shame.
Jack Kratoville. It's a shame.
Oh, man, I think he gave Mariah Carey a run for her money there. 10 octaves, at least. G.C. Cameron, the original lead singer for the Spinners, and It's a Shame. Jack Kratoville on the Fun Tower. Well, I respected the intro of the last song. This one of my favorite intros to quote-unquote talk up. You see how well I can do from memory. Jack Kratoville on the Fun Tower. Here's Paul McCartney. We're going to listen to what the Wings sing.
Anytime.
At 13, those lyrics sounded really cool. Now they kind of sound goofy. Mash McCann as years go by, and boy, have they ever.
You're where it is, the giant sound of Fun Tower Radio, the greatest hits.
This is Jack Kratoville on the Fun Tower. Good to be here. Thank you, Ron Sedaille, for letting me have a little time on the mic. You know, when you have kids and you're into music, they get influenced. They listen to a lot of songs that I played either on CD, cassette, over the radio. And if you ask them their favorite song, well, I don't know if you're going to believe it, but we actually danced to this the night before my son Kyle's wedding back in March. Here's Miriam Makeba and Pata Pata. All right, so that was the song that they like to sing with me. Of course, Mom had a favorite song that she sang to them when they were kids, and, well, we danced to this one as well the night before Kyle's wedding, back in March.
Where's your mama gone? Little
Those two songs go out to my beautiful kids, Kyle and Jackie. Love you very much. Jack Kratoville, Fun Tower.
Fun Tower Radio, where your friends are.
I get asked every once in a while, what's it like to work at the number one station in the big city? And I go, it's not really all that different. You've got to think the same way. We have an audience of mainly women, and I have to relate to them. And when it comes to that, I have to give a nod to my wife, who's never been in the business, probably doesn't care much about the business. I don't think she even knows the call letters of the station I work for. But she's taught me how to speak to and be respectful of females in that demo. And I have to say, even though everybody's a star, in our family, she's our brightest star.
Tanya Poole.
Everybody is a star.
On a weekend full of stars, I'm just happy to be a part of the sky.
Going home. The greatest hits, Fun Tower Radio.
Jack Kratoville on the Fun Tower, and it has been a lot of fun. Again, I want to thank Ron Sedaille for inviting me to share this hour with everybody. I learned early on never to say goodbye because, the show doesn't really end. Maybe you introduce a new voice, but other than that, you just go quietly into the night. However, the first 3 or 4 stations I ever worked for, if you heard this song, I wasn't coming back. It was always my last song. So this may not be my last time, but I bid adieu with the Beatles.
There are places
Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the show. I had a lot of fun. A couple of people to thank. First of all, my wife, Tanya, for putting up with me and all this nonsense. My daughter, Jackie, for teaching me new music and all the apps on which to find it on. If you're ever on the Outer Banks of North Carolina, check out my son's radio station, Kyle on the dial at Sunny 88.1. For the stereo music, Bill Shannon. Thanks for all the files. And when it comes to where'd you get that from, Tracy Carmen, the Media Preservation Society. Ron Sedaille, thank you so much for having me here. And to paraphrase the great Casey Kasem, keep reaching for the microphone, but keep your hand on the cough button.
That's great advice, Jack Kratoville. So blessed to have Jack do an hour here on Fun Tower Radio from WLTW, Light FM in New York City. Mr. Peachy and Mr. Poppy are excited too.